Welcome back to the show, The Unbroken. I'm your host, Sam Davis, right here. The Unbroken is powered by Intervention on Call. If you have a loved one that's struggling with addiction and you just don't know what to do, I would suggest you ask yourself these 3 questions. Is our family in a crisis situation? Has what we've done up until this point, has it been effective? And is doing nothing an option? If you answer those questions honestly, you'll find that maybe you need some strategy. Maybe you need some guidance. Maybe you need some education on exactly what to do. Maybe you need some help with a plan moving forward. That's where Intervention on Call comes in. Hourly, on-demand appointments, virtually, anywhere in the country from the comfort of your living room, an hour at a time with a professional to get the guidance and the strategy you need. Now, this episode today, I never saw this one coming. I didn't. I'm from a small rural town in Virginia, and I had a drug problem. And when you're in a little small town doing some tomfoolery type stuff, seems that every small town has this officer in it that just does not want to allow that to happen. And this officer was a thorn in my side for several years. Anyone in the town that was doing some nonsense did not like this officer because he wasn't playing. So I'd say a little bit today, we've got the war on drugs and we've got the war on addiction. And my guest today is Tony Mayton. He was at Officer Mayton.
Yep.
He's with the Drug Task Force, Nottoway County.
Yep.
You're you're a lieutenant?
I'm a lieutenant now,
Lieutenant,
yep.
Blackstone Police Department. And he was at my intervention. That if I didn't choose to go to treatment, he was going to be the one to take me to jail that day. And it's because of his tenacity to do his job and keep his community safe. There's one reason that I'm able to sit here today. Tony, welcome, man. I'm glad you're here, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I felt like I was driving Miss Daisy coming up here. Felt like my girlfriend says sometimes, she said, you got to drive like you got grandma in the back seat with a bowl of gravy and you're headed to church.
The day you drove with a police officer in your seat.
I did. We won't riding dirty either. I promise you. We weren't riding dirty.
Absolutely
you don't
not.
have to
Just
worry
a little
about
coffee.
that. Yeah. So, you're an officer in Blackstone Police Department. You're on the Drug Task Force. How did you get into law enforcement?
Well, it was just one day I decided while I was working at Food Line, I said, you know what? I think I want to be a police officer. So I just applied and it worked out for me. It's always been a dream of mine since I was younger, and I just never went forward or approached it, and I decided to.
Did you love it from the get-go?
Yes, I did.
So how, just a regular guy with a drive to be an officer,
Yep.
like was there a motive down in there is like, man, I want to help my community at that time, or was it just a job?
Almost probably a little bit of a job, but I also liked helping the community because I was already on the fire department, rescue squad, and all that stuff. So I did like helping people. I did.
So it was a little personal in your business. It was personal. It was like, hey, this is my home. This is my community.
This is where I live.
Yeah, and I want to keep it safe for my kids to run around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when, I've always wanted to know when someone joins the police force, and they're just a regular guy and they join the police force, and all of a sudden you have all of this authority and all of this power. How do you keep that in check? How do you maintain a balance of, I don't know if you say, humility or, integrity, maybe not integrity, but how do you see where I'm going with it? How do you maintain that balance?
Man, that's I never really got that in my head that I had that authority. I guess you can look at it that way. I was all about helping people, and I guess you do have a little bit of authority, but you're out there trying to help everybody and guide them in the right direction. I never really looked at it as like I'm over top of you. I've never really ever looked at it that way.
Well,
I'm the same as everybody else is.
But you can change somebody's day.
Well, yeah, you
really
can,
quickly.
You can definitely change somebody's day every day. Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. If it's for the good or for the better or for worse. But,
and you are a guy that you are not afraid to allow someone to have an experience of a consequence if their actions are showing that that is what they're inviting into their life.
Absolutely not. But if I can talk to them and tell them they can need to go the other direction or things they can do to change that, I try to talk to them about that.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember your first arrest?
I do. My very first arrest was somebody who had committed a larceny. The guy was probably in his 60s. Yep.
What was that? What happened? I'm
Oh,
dying to know. Like what?
Oh, it was pretty cool, and the guy was pretty cool, and he got caught red-handed, and I was able to solve it and figured out who had stole the stuff, and I arrested him, and I mean, nothing special about it, to be honest with you.
Right, but you remember that.
I do remember it.
All right.
Yep.
So when your very first time when you are, because I'm just asking some questions,
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody would wonder. Like the first time that you go to put handcuffs on someone and place them under arrest, is there some unknown, or like, is this guy going to flip out? What am I going to have to do? How far am I going to have to take this? Is that on every single person, or in the very first time that you do it, were you really nervous about it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my hands were shaking when I was putting the cuffs on the guy when I arrested him. But of course, now after years, you don't get as nervous, but you always have it in the back of your mind that, hey, what if this guy does this, or what if he does that? Because if you don't, that's when you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
You got to always have in the back of your mind, what if?
Mm-hmm. And before we go any further, Tony, man, I just want to say thank you for being so proactive and keeping the community safe.
Well, I appreciate it, and that goes both ways. Thank you for doing what you've been doing.
You know, look, on your end, your job is the war on addiction. I mean, the war on drugs, right? To keep the drugs from coming in, and consequences for those that partake in it. And my job is to hopefully get an individual to where they don't ever want to partake in the drugs. So
exactly.
I'm there to help the consumer, the addicted ones, and you're there to get the producers.
Yep. And make the county safe for everybody else and our kids growing up in it, and our grandkids.
What are you seeing in these rural areas? Because you're working a several county area.
We do. I usually try to stay in my county because that's where I want to make it safe. But I will go help the other ones in the other counties too.
Right. Now, if I say anything or ask anything that's inappropriate or something you got to keep under wraps, you just say, hey, we can't go there, and it'll come out in editing.
Absolutely.
I won't do anything like that. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. I don't want to talk about individual people and cases. And, where you going today when you whose house you going to. We don't want to get into any of that. We don't want to do. We want to keep the cool. But so what are you seeing out here is the biggest problem in the rural areas with the addiction and the like what's pushing all this? Like, what is it, do you think? I mean, I know there's probably several factors, but on your end, what are you seeing?
To be honest with you, I don't know exactly how to answer that question or what's pushing it.
Well, how's it evolved? Like, back when I was out running around, when you were chasing me around, it was crack cocaine, it was pharmaceutical pills, fentanyl wasn't on the scene. You didn't have a lot of pills in our area at that time. I was about the only, one out here doing a shit ton of pills. Like, it was hard for me to find pills. I could get them when I could get them. They were fairly cheap because there wasn't a lot of competition out here for them.
Right. So we're seeing more meth, and we're still seeing cocaine, crack, and powder cocaine. Meth is a big thing, and to me, I think meth really messes with people's lives more than cocaine does. I think it's above cocaine because of what it does and how it affects the person and their mind. But we're seeing a lot of both. They're probably pretty even.
Now, you and I, we're not too far apart in age.
No.
We came along around the same times. And back when I was, I was just a teenager. I wasn't messing around doing anything too stupid. But you would hear like bathtub crank, the bikers and, things like that, doing a little crank.
Yep.
And now we're in a totally different world with like, when did methamphetamine, you think, really come onto the scene in our rural areas? And how did it, how'd this come about, man? And why in our area is it so just heavy?
So it started trickling down, and everybody was talking in the past that it was in the mountains in that area, and then eventually it would come down here. And I was like, man, I don't want to see that come down here because I don't want to have to deal with that. And the stories I hear about it and what it does to people. And the next thing you know, here it is, man. It just popped in on its own, and it was probably out there before we started knowing it was out there and low key. And the next thing you know, boom, here it is in the little town of Blackstone, little county of Nottoway, Crew. I mean, it's everywhere, man. It's ate up.
Isn't it a huge like a distribution point in our area?
I
Or
don't
is that
know.
something you can't really get
Yeah,
into?
I don't know that. I'd rather not get on that, but
I'd love for you too. I would love for you. I'd love to dig a deep dive on
yeah,
that, man.
yeah.
I really would. But I get a lot of calls, and I mean, I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it. You know, man, they've cleaned me out before. Not, I mean, several years ago, 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers, generators, trailers. Like nothing can be
Well, they got to
left
support.
out.
They got to support their addiction.
And it's like, and I've seen people that I hadn't seen in several years, and the last time I'd seen them, they looked totally different than and they were just like methamphetamine is some of the most difficult interventions that I'll ever do, or an interventionist will ever do,
They're
because
the
you don't know
hardest
what you're
people to
going to
deal
get.
with.
You don't know what you're going to
You
get.
don't. They are the hardest people to deal with. I see that too. Yep. You don't know what you're going to get with them. Very paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Very skeptical about things. Yep.
Do you find it hard to do surveillance on them because they're about 3 steps ahead of you, or are they thinking? I mean,
they think they're 3 steps ahead in their mind. That's what they think.
Right.
It's like, you hear the stories about people that are on meth. They take things apart and they think they know what they're doing with it. And no, I don't see that issue with they're staying a step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What percentage do you think that's walking into the courtrooms these days are drug related? If you had to put a percentage on it.
I'd probably say at least probably about 40 to 45%.
Really?
At least.
I would have thought it would have been higher than that.
Really?
To be honest with you, I would have thought that even if it was, maybe it was domestic battery or something like that it was still going to be alcohol related or drug related.
Well, I mean, if you put alcohol into that portion, it'd probably be a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I would think so. So, all right. With that being said, and so much of your occupation centered around what about your line of work, being an officer? Let's set aside the drug task force, just being an officer. How much of your interactions, how much of your work do you think is either directly or indirectly related to drugs and alcohol? Got to be high, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably up there. I don't know if I could put a percentage on it, but let's say at least 35 to 40%. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Your larcenies and stuff like that,
It's all drugs.
Yep.
Stuff.
Yep.
All drugs.
That's how your B&Es. Yep. All of that's probably drug related.
Mm-hmm.
Not putting a finger directly on it, but I would say that's probably all your B&Es and stuff because they got to support their habit.
Mm-hmm.
They got to steal from somebody else to support their habit.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, I haven't had that happen to me like you have, but I don't know why they don't want to come around my house.
I can't imagine why. I'm sure they'd like to.
Yeah.
They'd like to.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do that.
No.
No. Yeah. So, so much of it being around drugs and alcohol. Do you guys think y'all get the training on really what addiction is? Like, what is the type of person you're dealing with and what is driving them to do what they do? And if not, do you feel like that if the officers were trained better or given some more education on exactly what the problem is, that they would handle things a little bit differently or know how to maybe communicate differently if necessary? I'm not saying you don't, but I mean, do you feel like y'all get the training and the education on really what addiction is? So let me ask you, I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot, like, what's addiction? Because I ask families this. When we do work at treatment programs and help their staff and kind of, train their staff. I'll ask the entire staff, like, what's addiction? And if it's 25 members on the staff, I'll get 25 different answers inside of a treatment center.
Well, I can believe that. I mean, because I've never had anybody ask me what addiction is.
It's a straightforward question, but
is.
it's a really difficult question to answer.
And I can imagine everybody's going to have a different answer of what addiction is. I guess addiction to me is something that you can't get away from, that you've got to have. Best way I can answer that.
Right. But then that's the common answer from most people is just you're stuck on something you can't get off. When I have families that are contacting me and even booking sessions with me, on the first session, I'll ask them because I want to see where they are. It's like, what is addiction? And they've been battling this thing and really just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks and really having no idea what the problem is. So, and when I ask people, it's like, what is it? It's just something they do that they can't stop. And I'm like, but why? Like, why do they keep doing it? when you saw me, I come from a good family. I
Yep.
come from a good area of town.
Yep.
When you saw me, because I know y'all had eyes on me, and when y'all saw me, wasn't there a question that one's like, what the hell is he doing? Like,
Why?
why are they, why?
Why would he want to ruin his life like that when he has this great career that he could fall into?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I remember my ex-sister-in-law told me one time, and I doubt she knows how impactful this was or that it really hit. Not that I made any changes at that time, but she said, Sam, you don't even know how to live life easy. You don't know how to live life just simple. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
I never heard it put that way.
So when y'all would see me running down, in those areas where I wasn't supposed to be, it was like, what the hell's he doing?
Yep. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So then we think, well, shit, if we just, we hem him up and get him in some trouble, put a little heat on him, maybe he'll straighten out.
Maybe that'll change his life.
Maybe that'll change his life. Maybe he'll straighten out. Maybe he'll decide that, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe they'll do an about face. Now, there's 3 types of people that use drugs and drink. You have your normal drinker or your recreational user.
Yep.
They can take it or leave it alone. They may slip around, run through a road check, and maybe get a DUI one time, and then they can put it down or whatever. But
Yep.
mostly your normal drinkers or your normal recreational users, you don't have any trouble with them.
Right.
Then you have your hard drinker or your hard user is what they say. They can resemble an alcoholic, they can resemble an addict, but given sufficient reason to put it down, they can either go back and moderate or they can quit it altogether. Sufficient reason be if I get a DUI, if I get locked up,
Right.
if health, falling in love, job, whatever, like I can moderate or put it down altogether. Then the real deal individual with the label of alcoholic or true alcoholic or addicted individual that has that ism is given sufficient reason to put it down, they are unable to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how many times you lock them up,
it's not going to change anything.
They're when I was sitting in jail, first time I got locked, I think the first time I got locked up was when I went after that guy with that chainsaw. Understandably so. I needed to be put away. But when I left that jail, I said, I'll never come back here. I'm not doing this anymore. And I meant it. Like when they opened that door and let me out and I got, civilian clothes on that are a little too tight at the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never coming back here. And then when I got back to Blackstone, I'm riding behind McDonald's. I remember exactly where I was. The sun was shining. I'd had a little abstinence under my belt, thinking that was sobriety. And the threadbare idea came through my head is that I wonder what the boys are doing down there. Let's go see what they're doing, man. I want them to see me not be a crackhead. I want them to see me that I'm just a regular guy. And I went down there, and the next thing you know, I'm smoking crack. So that being said, it's that there's a mind, the illness of addiction centers in an addicted individual's mind.
Right.
And they cannot differentiate the truth from the false when it comes to drugs and alcohol. They have experiences that show them over and over again that it doesn't work. Their mind lies to them and tells them that this time it's going to work and here's how. And the reason and why it's doing that is because when they first experimented, they were usually bringing some emotional shit to the table. They were usually bringing a lot of trauma and emotional pain to the table. They usually had a low self-esteem, either through some bullying or some mistaken beliefs that they've been fed or created along the way in their formative years. And when they experimented with drugs or alcohol and they put it in their system, they get relief. They can breathe. They feel a part of. They feel connected.
Yep.
And their mind says, here's your solution. And it works for a long time, but then it turns on them like a boomerang. Yep. And that's when you start seeing them show up in your world over and over and over again.
Yep, that is correct.
And then the family dynamics don't help out because most of the time when you lock somebody up, the family's going to think it's your fault and they're just a poor victim and why poor me.
Of course.
And that's not doing anything to help the situation.
It's not. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to go on. That's such a long-winded thing there.
No. I mean, I'd like to see, and what you brought up is the training on addiction and why we don't get that training.
Mm-hmm.
We see it, but we don't get it. Of course, in my life, I've kind of seen addiction, having a family member that's been addicted, and and I've seen what it does and how they try to manipulate things to get what they want out of things too.
So when you're being in your line of work, did you have fears when your loved ones were your family members, whichever ones were struggling? Did you have fears that they would become one, or did you have maybe some overconfidence that maybe they wouldn't, knowing what line of work you're in and all the warnings and the?
Well, you would hope that in the line I work in that wouldn't happen, and of course that's fears in the back of your mind because you know it's out there, and all these teenagers, and as you're growing up and you're in school, you always have these points where people introduce you to stuff, and you just got to make the decision to go the correct way with that. But yeah, that was a big fear, and then it happened, and so it hit home, and I saw it. So,
It's scary.
It is scary. It is. It's very scary because you want to make the right choices for your kids, and you want them to go in the right direction, and you want to get them the help that they want to do. But sooner or later, you've got to wipe your hands clean of things and let them fall to the bottom, because you can't sit there and enable somebody and help them out to do things, because that's just going to keep the ball rolling, so to say.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. You got to wipe your hands clean of it.
Yeah. Wipe your hands clean of the nonsense and the chaos, but be willing to be there as a loved one with a solution when they hit that ready point to where they want to do something about it and change their life.
You got that solution and you want to go the right path, I'm here to help you no matter what.
Yeah. I'll do nothing to enable your demise. I'll do anything to help you live a life of abundance.
100%.
Yeah. And we need to see more of that.
Yep.
And,
we do.
And where you are every day behind the wheel of that car and your eyeballs and around the public, are you seeing that? Or are you seeing a lot of enabling?
I see a lot of enabling. I see a lot of that.
Most of it rooted around ignorance around what addiction is.
Well, yeah, because people don't know what to do with it. And, you of course, you don't want to see your kids hurt and you don't want to see them struggling, but you can't sit there and help them with the struggle that they're going through. You can't do that. They have to figure it out on their own, or they have to hit that rock bottom, or they have to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. Man, I love my kids. I love them to death, and I've enabled them, and I have, let things go on too long, and when you set some boundaries and they buck on that, and man, it's frightening being a parent. I mean, as my ancestor, I don't know, as my great uncle or somebody said, raising kids is hell. It is, man. Raising kids is hell.
It's not easy.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And I guess you got to think on too. You're raising kids, and me being a police officer and thinking what they're getting in the schools. Think people are picking on them, or you're out there arresting other people's parents, and then the next thing you know, that your kid's getting it because your daddy did this, or your daddy did that, and that's got to be hard on them too.
Yeah, yeah. Most of us think we're slick, that y'all won't know.
Yeah.
Not knowing that that's your job. Your job is to get up in the morning with maybe not all the resources that you need, but with much more resources than what us had. And that's your job every day, is to get up and catch people.
It is.
You're going to catch them.
Eventually.
Right?
Eventually. It may take a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, a good way to explain that is, you're a hunter, right? You've hunted. You put game cameras out.
Yeah.
You watch stuff.
Yeah.
And then you just like, all right, this is where this deer is going to be at. This is the corner I'm going to be sitting on. And if that don't work that day, because that deer didn't change his pattern, then you're going to get it on a game camera later, right? And you go, oh, I need to be over here. It's the same thing with everybody out here. Everybody that goes out and deals with drugs or buys drugs, they're going to be in the same spot here or there. They got that one particular person they go to, and that's the one you see them going to all the time, and you see that same car that they're driving back and forth at that same place. So it's not any different.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say I'm the game camera.
Right. Right.
So I'm watching patterns, and I'm paying attention to it.
Right.
And then eventually, we're going to meet.
Well, let me tell you the effect it has, even when you're not busting them, even when I'm not getting arrested. When I would make that turn to go down to that house that I knew was being watched, it was the level of anxiety that I would feel every single time that I made the corner to go down to the plug, to go down to the trap house. the level, I'm not even shitting, man, the level of anxiety of just wondering, I just could just, like, is today going to be the day where they're going to swarm me? Is today going to be the day that when I walk into that door that they're coming in behind me? Every single
That's a lot of weight
time.
to carry.
It is. It is.
But look what you still did, even though you had that weight.
Yeah. Oh, I had to have it. Like, not doing it was not an option.
Right.
And man, I'm gonna tell you, it got to a point. Like, man, I would never rob someone or do a armed robbery or anything like that. And I know I had my struggles with, I mean, look, man, every now and again I took a chainsaw and chased a guy around, and smoked a little crack and shit like that. But I thought I was a pretty decent citizen other than that.
Right. Right.
But man, I remember a time sitting in front of the slip-in, the gas station, and on the side of it, pulled in. Probably didn't have a driver's license, but I sat there and contemplated, if I just go in here and do a strong arm grab, man, I know I'm going to get caught. I know they're going to get me. But if I can do the strong arm grab and go in and get my stuff and just escape long enough to smoke it all up, I may do that. That's fucking insanity.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It is. Like, how many people deal with that every day?
That actually do that.
And actually end up doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who otherwise wouldn't harm a flea.
Exactly.
Wouldn't hurt a fly.
Exactly. I mean, I deal with people all the time that you wouldn't think do the things that they do, and then you get them under arrest and you have them there and you're talking to them. It was like, man, this guy was brought up right. He was raised in a great family, and he's got great respect, but he just made bad choices. He's an addicted individual that has made bad choices. You can tell the difference how people are raised, how you talk to them when you sit down with them and you interact with them, and you can really tell they were raised right.
Mm-hmm.
It blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
I mean, there's probably a lot of them that when they get into your spider web, and when it goes down, when they get arrested and they're in booking or whatever, but a lot of them are just in shame right away. Just go right to shame.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have seen both sides of that. Mm-hmm. Some are pissed off. Some are just in shame, and then you got others you're talking to, just like I just said, that they have a great heart and they shouldn't be where they're at right now.
Mm-hmm. Would you say too that the ones that are dealing it, the dealers, would you agree that they're just as addicted to the game as the addicted individuals are to the drugs? It's no different than
like gambling or scratch tickets and stuff like that. Yeah, that's an addiction too. Mm-hmm. I would agree 100% that's an addiction.
They feel important. Yep. They feel wanted. Yep. They feel needed. Yep. They feel powerful.
Yep.
They
I got you back today. Come on, man. Come on to me. I got you.
Yeah.
Mine's better than the other guys. Come see me.
Yeah.
Yep. That's an addiction.
Yeah. You have the power. Yep. Either I'm going to front you this 20 or I'm not.
Yep.
And I'm going to get you in for maybe 100, 150, and then you're going to owe me, and then you're going to do this and do that and do this.
Yep.
It's all an addiction. No.
It is.
I mean, man, like, what I see that could be a little bit different is that when you do arrest somebody, you have a captive audience, and then when you lock them up, we call it, you got them marinating. You've got some leverage on them that it's an opportunity that I think and I don't know what the answer is, but if there was a way that instead of just locking your ass up, that you're going to go in and your sentence is going to be like, we're going to do some internal work and dig down and get down to why you keep doing this dumb shit. Yep. But it's not happening.
No, it's not.
I mean, when at the jail I went to in Farmville, Piedmont Regional, we'd have a Bible study every now and again. We'd have an maybe. I mean, I was in there for several months and maybe had one.
I mean, there's 100% a lack of education on that and resources for that around here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just don't want to. I guess there's a lot of fears in people about getting places for people to go for the addiction or having a facility. Then you're worried about, I've heard talk, everybody's worried about, well, what if they get released while they're in there? What if they decide they want to walk out while they're in there? Then we got this addicted individual out on our streets in our town or our county, and that's the big fear for people. Mm-hmm. They worry about that.
Mm-hmm. is where they walk out of the.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then you have them in the community, and we need more resources with that. We really do. This thing's big.
Yeah, it is.
It ain't small.
It's like putting your finger in the crack of the dam, trying to hold it back.
Yep.
And the more people y'all are getting, the more stuff you get off the street, the more stuff that's coming on.
Oh, yeah. There's always somebody to take their place. When you pick that one person up, there's always somebody there to take their place. They've taught somebody. Somebody's going to pick it right back up.
Do you ever feel like, man, like it's just like it's never ending? Like, what are we doing? Like, what we're doing working? I mean,
yeah.
Has it been a difference in the community? Like, what impact are you seeing that y'all are having? And I'm not saying y'all aren't having one. I'm just like what areas, because it's got to be tough to see.
I mean, there's no stats on that, but I would have to say I like making the impression of, hey, you're not coming to this county and do this. You're not coming to this town and do this. And I'm hoping that's making it safer for the kids that are coming up and everybody else in the community. It's making it safer. I mean, as far as stats go, we have no stats on that, but I'm hoping it's making a difference. Mm-hmm. At least I feel like it is. So.
Do you remember my case? Do you remember chasing me around? And I mean, I know you do with a lot of people, and it was a long time ago, but do you remember the shenanigans? Do you remember the cat and mouse and the...
Yeah, I remember you always coming down, riding around, and I was like, one day I'm going to get him. I'm going to catch him one day because I know what he's up to. I know what he's doing.
How did you know what I was doing? How'd you know? Just me being where I was? The first time you saw me where I wasn't supposed to be, were you like, well, that's interesting? Or was that like, wonder what the hell he's doing?
Well, I mean, I kind of knew the areas that drugs were being sold in, of course, because I'm on the task force, so I know what's going on around there. And I can't remember. Well, yeah, I was at the time. I was on the task force at the time. I don't know how many years I'd been on it. But I was picking up on that, and I guess it's just instincts with me. And why I probably should have been a cop. Things just click with me for some reason. I can't explain it myself. And I was like, I see him down there. I know what's going on. And yeah, it happened. Mm-hmm. It did. It happened.
Yeah, I just remember there was one time that you may have only arrested me once.
I think it was just that one time.
Other officers had their turn.
Yeah, they did. They had their turn.
But I had just left. I had just left the dealer.
Yep.
I just left the plug.
Yep.
And I had a half a gram of powder cocaine on me. Either a half a gram or a gram, I don't really remember. And I had some old beat up weed seeds in a cellophane wrapper that was in the door of my truck.
Yep.
And I had a stem. Now what I was going to do was I was going to get that powder and I was going to go out to the farms out on Hungertown Road where I always went to do my thing. And I was going to cook it up, and I was going to do my thing. And the seeds were just in my truck from just negligence. I picked it up. I came down the back streets. I don't know if I remember seeing you coming up behind me, or I knew that you had interest in talking to me by the way you were driving, by the way you had asserted your vehicle. And I pulled into Hardee's restaurant, and I came in, and I knew that I was in a public parking lot. And then if I could get rid of that stem and have it on the ground in a public spot, I knew that I had a shot of either getting off, not getting arrested, period, or if I did get arrested, that I could beat the charge. And it just won't happen.
Yeah, luckily I was able to see exactly what you did.
Did you see me throw the stem?
I did.
You saw me throw the stem at?
I did.
Right. You weren't buying for a second when I said, that ain't mine.
Yep.
Did I? I tried that too, didn't I?
You did.
I tried
Do you remember what I stopped you for?
No license, wasn't it?
I can't remember. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was no license. I didn't have a driver's license.
Okay. That's probably why. Because I had knowledge of that.
You had what?
I must have had knowledge of that. Prior knowledge.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all knew what was going on. I was down in the bottom. In my truck. I mean, my truck stood out like a sore thumb. It looked like I was riding around in a dumpster because that's how my life looked. Yeah. So when you looked at my truck and you looked at my outside, all of my outsides matched my insides, and it was all just a dumpster fire, right? So I'm down in the bottom where, we stick out like a sore thumb. And I did my thing and came back around, and you were on it. You must have been watching the house or something. I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Just kind of happened upon me.
Just happened upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You was in the wrong place at the right time.
Mm-hmm. So right there
So
on
you
Main
could change
Street.
your life.
So right there on Main Street, with the blue lights behind me.
Yeah, you gave me hell though.
I did give you hell?
You gave me hell.
What do you mean I gave you hell?
You gave me hell about that ain't yours. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you gave me a hard time. No, man, no.
Yeah. I don't, if I was disrespectful, that's probably the only time I've been disrespectful to an officer. If I was
I
disrespectful,
don't think you were
'cause I was
disrespectful. You just were
it's just
denying.
adamant. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was afraid, man. I didn't want to go to jail again. I didn't want that shit in my life again, because when I woke up that morning, I'm sure because I woke up this way every morning, it's like, man, I'm going to do good today. I'm going to do things differently today. I'm going to be a good dad today. I'm going to be a good husband. I'm going to be a productive worker. I'm gonna do all these things. I'm not gonna do this today. And every single day there was never a day I could not smoke crack cocaine. I had to have something to tune out and check out completely. And so when that happened, I just was like, shit, man, here we go again.
Well, let's think about the other side of it too. You're Sam Davis. Sam Davis had a family that had the logging business, did really well. And it was kind of scary for me too. I'm like, well, I'm dealing with this guy, and he's got a family that's going to, probably back him and going to enable him. And I'm like, but I'm going to do this anyway, because, at the time, it's been so many years ago, was I thinking about, am I going to change his life? Do I want to get him off the street? He's better than this. Because you were better than that. You had a great family that really cared a lot about you.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad they didn't enable you.
Yeah, you were there at my intervention that day, and we'll get to that. But
yeah,
man, I remember getting in the back of the police car, thinking, shit, man. And it looked like everybody I knew at that time rode down Main Street that day,
of
with
course,
their face glued to the
glued
to the side window.
They got Sam Davis. Sam Davis.
My truck sitting there, door open, cops going through it, rummaging through it. Which there was a lot more shit in that truck, just because the truck was so messy.
Yeah.
Tip. Here's a tip. If you're doing some stuff you shouldn't be doing, you may want to have a really, really, really messy vehicle.
Oh yeah, that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine the stuff that we probably miss that we don't get. But a messy vehicle makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of places to hide things in a messy vehicle, especially if you got tools and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Now, I'll stand on this. I believe this from the get-go. Busting me for marijuana seeds and getting a possession of marijuana on seeds was just a little extra, Officer Mate, and I just feel like that was a little extra. You didn't have to bust me for the seeds. You had me for possession of cocaine.
That's
you
true.
didn't have to get me for the
That's
seeds.
true.
But I felt like that was just like he did that for oomph.
Probably so.
Just to hammer it in. Just to be like, just for full measure. Just we're done here, Sam.
We let that go in the end, though, didn't we?
Nah, I got convicted of it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And it's legal now.
Yeah. It's off my record now, but yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, I was guilty. And, man, I had an attorney, and I thought for sure because it was found on the street or on the parking lot that I was going to get off of that. I just knew for sure. I knew for sure I was going to go in there, and, man, they locked my ass up. They put me in jail. I had to do 28 days over that.
28.
Huh?
Man.
But it saved my life.
Yeah.
Because it put me in a position to where I was on probation, which gave people leverage.
Yep.
Now, what they didn't want to happen was the probation officer did not want to allow me to go out of state because I was on probation. But I'm going to say this about the state of Virginia, is that we are in the Stone Ages when it comes to effective addiction treatment. More programs are coming along, but they're still generally just your, excuse me, still generally just your 28-day spin cycle program.
Right.
Like, at the end of the day,
we both know that's not enough.
It really isn't, right? And there's not a lot of continuity between the inpatient and then aftercare. Yep. And there's just other states that are doing it a lot better.
Yep.
And there are levels of care to addiction treatment. I was to the degree of my addiction and emotional pain, just really mental health, where I required a higher level of care than what was available in the state of Virginia. One major problem that I see happening out here is probation in the legal system is having a little too much involvement of what someone's medical necessity and getting in the way of them accessing that what's an appropriate level of care that would be out of state to handle their medical condition, which an addiction is. It really is a medical condition. It's the solution that people are using to fill and treat a mental and emotional crisis.
Right.
So probation, and you've seen this, right? When you get on probation and they can't leave the state.
Yep.
Get it like sometimes it's really difficult for us to get probation officers to allow their clients to switch probation or go out of state. Yep. And I get that because there's some liability.
Right.
You know, like dude's on probation in Virginia, he goes to treatment in maybe Georgia. The probation officer has said, "Hey, I'm willing to allow this convicted individual who has, historically been a little menace to come into your state." And then if he acts crazy, then part of probation has to kind of own that, right?
Right.
So my probation officer didn't want to let me out and didn't want to let me leave the state. And they were trying to send me to a level of care that I desperately needed. And my sister got in there and manipulated the probation officer a bit and got her to agree. But dude, at the end of the day, everybody just worked together at the end of the day, and all pieces fell right where they needed to go. Because I rolled in, and there was you and Lonnie Morgan. Lonnie was a deputy, you were town.
Yep.
And y'all stood right there and didn't say a word, but were more than willing to take me to jail that day.
Yep. I think that's the way we were told it was going to go if you didn't go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the interview with my son, but I don't know if I put that in the interview, but you gave my son a bear, a stuffed animal, raccoon. It was a raccoon. You gave him a raccoon when I was pulling away. He said really the only thing he remembers about that day is when I pulled away and that you gave him a raccoon. And he said, you would think like, hey, I just gave a kid a stuffed animal.
Right.
And then maybe some kids would just be a stuffed animal.
Right.
But for him, he said he remembers that. And he'll never forget that.
Cool.
And that it comforted in him.
Yeah. I still give those things out to this day.
Yeah. We'll keep doing it because it made a difference in him.
That's the thing. You don't, I interact with a lot of people, and you don't know the outcome of things sometimes where you interact with people. Have you changed their lives? Have you made them think about things? Because maybe you don't see them again later, but you never know what you've done unless somebody comes up to you and tells you, "Hey, man, I appreciate what you did for me. You changed my life. You sent me in the right direction. I don't do that stuff no more." And you only know that if people come up and tell you. Mm-hmm. So that's the only way you'll ever know it. Mm-hmm. But I like to think that I change people's lives for the better sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just any of that shit you're getting off the street, just at the basic level, just getting that shit off the street, even though it's flooding in, any little bit you're getting off the street is saving someone's life.
Hopefully I took it from the next person that wants to go buy it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You seeing any fentanyl in town?
A little bit.
How are y'all handling that?
Probably about the same as we do everything else. Usually you find it mixed in with stuff. So when it's coming back from the lab, it's usually mixed in. I haven't probably really purchased any straight fentanyl from anybody, but maybe once or twice. But usually it's mixed in with things. Yep.
Now, I was saying that back in this was 16 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, pills weren't as prevalent in my area. It just wasn't a thing. Not like cocaine was, but you've seen, I know we were talking about there's a lot of methamphetamines in the area. It's kind of sweeping the area. There's cocaine. The fentanyl, are you seeing more opiate-addicted people in our area? And if so, or if not, like, is there a cultural, are you seeing a heavier influx of, cocaine, and then maybe the African-American community have a heavier concentration of methamphetamine in the Caucasian communities, or is it blending now? Like, what's shifting? What are you?
So the cocaine is I'd say that's blended. So that goes both ways. But you're seeing more Caucasian people with the meth. That's where you see it mostly at. Why is that?
I don't know. I just think the black folks are like, man, y'all white folks with that methamphetamine stuff, your teeth falling out and you're acting crazy and you're looking up at the sky, and we ain't doing that. That's what I think it is. Basically, when you cut it down, I think they're looking at, man, them white folks are crazy over there.
Yeah.
That methamphetamine.
That could be it.
Because we look crazy.
Oh,
We'd be at Walmart 2 a.m. shopping for, breakfast.
Yep.
We're out cutting the yard with a pair of scissors at 3 a.m.
Yep,
Man, I had a guy down in Texas. He said 3 a.m. he'd be painting somebody's house, knocking on the door 7 a.m, wanting to be paid for it. He said he was cutting grass in women's clothing at 7 a.m. one morning. He had a halter top and a skirt on. And he was an old cowboy.
Really?
All methed up, man. All methed up, man. We get crazy on that shit. Trying to intervene on it.
It's hard.
We gotta you never know when you're gonna catch them in a lucid moment. You gotta catch them in a lucid moment. Their runs go forever.
Yep.
And they'll run for 2-3 weeks at a time, and then sleep for 4 or 5 days in the crash. And you're just trying to time it to hit them, and then the paranoia and
that's got to be hard.
How do y'all deal with the psychosis when they're talking about how do you reason with them?
There's no really reasoning with them because they believe what they're saying and what they're doing.
Yeah. Do you ever have counsel their defense? Try to play the thing of, look, you read them their rights. They were completely out of their mind. There was no way that they could have,
No, haven't had that yet.
Haven't had that?
No, haven't had that yet.
I just wonder if a good attorney would try to play that angle or not.
No, fortunately, we haven't had that. I'm sure that'll be coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to reason with anybody when they're on that stuff, and especially you don't know how long they've been on it or how many days they're in. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, that's got to probably be the hardest thing to deal with as far as your work goes and our work.
Yeah.
It is because you just don't know where they're at.
Yeah. I mean, I don't carry. I don't carry into an intervention. I don't carry at all in an intervention. That's not my role. I'm not there for a gunfight. I'm not there for any of that. Right. And we're going into things unarmed, totally unarmed. Nothing but God's armor on us on a methamphetamine. Like, you don't know what'll happen, man. No. There's been stories of guys that come out of a wake up in jail with paperwork of they've taken someone's life and they don't even have any recollection of it, no knowledge of it, and that happens, and like they're prone to violence. I mean, that shit can happen.
Yep. Paranoia, violence, the whole 9 yards with that.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot worse, in my opinion, than cocaine is out here.
I've done some crazy shit on cocaine, but mainly I just wanted to isolate and look up at the sky, looking for satellites and watching out for shadow people. You were part of my intervention. You didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. You did your job. I'm the result of that job. When I came back home, did you really think that, and look, man, I'm not trying to act like, I was this big memory in your life. This is a long time ago. I get it. But did you think that I'd really straightened out, or was there eyeballs still on me when I came home? Was there some, hey, let's just see what he's doing. Let's make sure he's not down on the 5 anymore,
Nope.
None of that.
Nope.
It was
not
just
at
like,
all.
fuck it, he's,
Yep. Not at all. Because, of course, I was hearing it from other people how well you were doing. I'd ask from time to time. I can't remember who I asked, but I'd ask from time to time, and I was like very proud of what you had done. Heard you were an interventionist yourself, and you were going that route, and I was like, man, that's just great. So, yep.
Man, it really is a good feeling to be able to see y'all in the stores and run into y'all in town and just shoot the shit with you.
Absolutely.
Without any fear or any shame anymore, that we can joke. And I was on the phone with you the other day. You were in court, and there was another officer. What were y'all? Who was talking about? We all out here doing God's work, something like that. We just talking shit to each other.
Yep.
And when I ran in, when we were in the tobacco store, I came in there to get a vape, and y'all were like, man, what y'all doing? Y'all, it feels so
Back in the day, you'd have walked
refreshing.
in that door and
whoop, turn around. Sorry.
Yep.
Wrong place.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I thought this was church. I'm looking for is the reverend here? That's what I'd have been. It's been like, no, I gotta go.
Exactly.
But it's so refreshing, man, just to be able to have some peace. Man, I didn't think I was gonna make it, buddy. I didn't think I was gonna make it, and you asked on the way up here, where would I be if none of that would have happened? And I told you I would have been dead. I really would have. I would have been dead. What do you think? How can the people that are fighting the war on drugs and the people fighting the war on addiction, I don't know that our lines cross. And how can we work better together, you think? Or how can the legal system be like, what are you seeing, just not in the community, well, maybe in the community, but just in general, across the state and across the land? Where's the legal system dropping the ball on this? What frustrates you, man? Because I can tell you the public sees a lot of stuff that's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, like, they're not the ones putting the work in.
Right. It's frustrating that sometimes you don't see what you think the justice should have been in that case and what should have happened. And all that does is later on put that same person back on the street, and here you are dealing with the same one again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not solving any problems that way. I mean, there's accountability for things. There's just like an addicted child or somebody addicted in your family to something, there's accountability. You've got to have that accountability. If you don't have that accountability with someone or on someone, then where are you going to be? Where's it going to go? What's it going to solve?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to have a revolving door?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it seems like sometimes. It's a revolving door.
Yeah. Isn't there just some times where you just walk out of the courtroom or you read articles, you're just like, wow, why did I even go through all the effort of doing it? They're just going to get this.
You know, back in the day, I probably used to think that way. But now I'm like, I'm out here, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm doing my job. And I can't worry about what happens when it gets to the courtroom. I can't. Can I let it bother me? If I do, it's going to eat me up.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that. Well, it's going to affect me doing my job. So
now, this is something that I would like every person in the country to know about you. And that is, and I don't understand why it has to be this way, but you're an officer for the town, and you're on the task force,
yep.
The combined task force of a couple of counties.
Yep.
That involves deputies, that involves town officers, that involves state police.
Yep.
And you're doing that on your days off,
yes.
in your spare time.
Yep. I do that on my days off. Yep. I care that much about it.
Or are you okay saying that, like, you're not compensated for that? That is your spare time.
I am. I'm getting paid for it.
Okay.
I'm getting paid for it.
Okay.
On my day off.
All right. So it's not like volunteer work.
Yep.
Okay.
And sometimes from time to time, I can, if I have an extra person on my shift on that day, I can take that next day off if I need to. But I'm willing to go out here and do it, whatever it takes, to make a difference out here.
Because it's your community.
It is. It's absolutely my community, our community. Everybody lives in the county. It's their community. I just want to make a difference.
What do you need? What does the department need?
Well, what every department needs is more people.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to do this job anymore. So the more people we have, the more free time I have.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're working on that.
So y'all are like constantly hiring, or there's constantly
it's a revolving door. But we have a good group of people now in our department, and we have a couple that are in the academy. And once they get out, we should be pretty much up to full staff.
Now, when you look at the media, like, who the hell would want to be an officer right now?
Yeah. Yep, you're criticized all the time.
It's like a target on your back for lawsuits, or
you
don't feel supported by, the government. I'd say government.
At times.
The higher ups. You don't feel supported
at times.
At times, yeah, I know you got to be a little delicate. You don't
at times.
You gotta.
I'm not gonna put nobody on the
right. Yeah,
and
I'm not saying just in general. I'm just not talking about Blackstone. I'm talking about just in general.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell wants to be an officer now?
Yeah. And that's why we have a hard time finding people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Used to, when I first started, it was nothing to get 20 or 30 applications in there and do some interviews. Now you're lucky you get 5, 6.
Mm-hmm. How's the qualifications? Are you seeing people that are less qualified now, or?
Shoot, most of the people that we're hiring are not even qualified. We have to send them to school. Yeah, we get a few here and there. It's few and far between.
Mm-hmm. How long is school?
Approximately 6 months. Yep.
That you're away.
Yes.
Going to school for that 6 months. You're at the academy for 6 months.
Yep, you get to come home on the weekends, or if they have holidays, you get to come home. You're there basically 6 months.
So it's like basic training.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They get all in your grill and shit?
Oh, not that bad. It's not that bad. But would I do it again? No.
You wouldn't do it again?
No.
Were you nervous when you went in there? When you first went to school?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, God, what am I doing?
Yep.
Am I going to be able to do it?
Yep.
Exactly. You put the tear gas in your face? Did it do all that?
Oh, yeah, we did all that.
Right.
Yep. Tear gas, pepper spray, all that good stuff.
All right.
Fight with the red man. They call it the red man guy.
What's the red man?
Red man gets in a big old suit, and you have scenarios. You go into a house, and he's in there, and it's like, he done beat this girl up, and she's on the floor. And you're like, all right, what do we do here? We getting ready to fight this big guy or what?
See, can you hit him with the batons and all? He's got the big suit on, so
if that happens, that's what you have to do. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So, man, any law enforcement, first responders, man, you guys have seen some shit.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're going to see. You can kind of, wonder if it's a Wednesday. You may have it's just going to be a regular Wednesday, but you never know.
You don't.
Like,
you don't.
How do you deal with what you've seen, what you've experienced, and what do you do when you start feeling burnout and to unplug from all this shit? What do you like to do? How do you take care of your emotional health?
Go camping, play some golf, hang out with the fellas. That's pretty much all I do. Yep. Work around the yard, do some woodwork at the house, take my mind off of it.
Would you say that you don't bring your work home with you?
I try not to bring my work home with me.
You good with separation?
Yep.
You're pretty solid on that?
My wife works for the state police, so she knows kind of and she's been around it, so she knows. Yep.
Do you ever have those days where some really bad shit has happened and you're just like, hey, man, just come home and just kind of lose your shit?
I wouldn't say. I've had a couple instances where, I've gone home where something's like really hit me, and I got a good wife that is there for me to talk to, and she understands. But yeah, I've had a few. Nothing giant. So. Is
the department aware, or do they advocate to take care of your mental health and your emotional health?
Absolutely. We have a good department as far as that goes, and we have somebody we can go talk to if we need to go talk to them. And that's happened in a couple. I've talked to that person before, and we've had other people that have done the same, and they're there. And I'll tell you what, the guy we talked to, he's freaking phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Yep, he can put it right on perspective for you and put you right back on track. Mm-hmm. We couldn't ask for nobody better.
Right.
Yep. We got great resources for that.
Good. And man, again, like, there's a lot of people, like, you messed up the high for a lot of people, me included. Like, really, man, you made it really difficult for us to do our thing. You did. I mean, I just want you to know that everybody in that game, they talked a lot of shit about you and about other officers, and they can talk whatever they want to now to your face, talking about Tony Baloney and all the shit that we said, right? And all the shit that they say. Yep. But I'm going to tell you what, they fear you. The folks in the game, they can say what they want, and once this hits the little clips on social media, I'm like, oh, he's scared of that. Bullshit. You interfered with their day. They were always looking over their shoulder, and there wasn't a day they didn't think about where the hell is Tony Mayton.
Well, I guess that means I'm doing my job. Yeah. And that's all it is I'm doing my job. I'm not out there to make somebody fear me or fear the police. I want everybody to, at least have respect for us. Yeah. But I don't want to be feared. But
no, it's not. But it's like
I know what you
get in the way.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the job. You're upsetting the apple cart, and you have been for years. Yep. And it made it very, very, very uncomfortable to do drugs. Damn it.
Well, I guess I did my job then.
You did, bud. You did. And I think more communities need people as committed to their community as you are to yours. I mean, it's obvious, man. And when you were running for sheriff, man, I got behind you 100% because, man, like, your heart's in it.
Oh, I want to see the change, and I want to see those changes and make those changes. I really do.
And you want to know what stands out about your character that I've observed. And I could be wrong. I don't think I am. But, like, you don't give a shit what people say.
I don't.
You're going to do your job, and you don't give a shit what they say. You don't give a shit what anyone in the community says about Tony Mayton doing his job.
I don't. My wife tells me, she goes, how do you deal with what shit people talk about you in this community. I said, you can't worry about that. Because if you do, then you won't be able to do your job.
Yeah.
I said, I can't.
Yeah.
And I think it bothers her more than it bothers me. It doesn't.
That's a good thing. That's a good quality to have.
Yeah.
You know? Tony, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate it.
Man, when I was sitting in the back of your patrol car, did you ever think that this day was going to come?
Never, man. It's like I said on the way up here. It's like we're married now.
Yeah.
It's come full circle.
Yeah.
It's like a ring, man.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we want to say we married or not. We've closed the circle.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. No, I never thought I never saw this coming. Never.
It's crazy.
It
You
is.
just never know.
It's a great crazy though.
Yeah. Let's go get something to eat. And
That
head
sounds
on
good
back
to me.
Blackstone.
That sounds good to me. You're buying today. I'm good.
I
I'm
got
good.
you. I am. I got you today.
I'm only kidding.
Tony, thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's it for the show. We're going to see you next time. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And again, this episode was brought to you by InterventionOnCall.com. Hourly appointments for family members that are struggling with addicted loved ones. Get the strategy and the guidance that you need. Y'all, look, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is a really special one for me. And y'all, as you're going on about your day and you're going about the weekend, always remember to be good to yourselves. That's it.